Hey, welcome to the Higher Ed AV podcast. My name is Joe Way, and I am your host, and I have my favorite episode of every year, the annual tradition that sadly may or may not be an annual tradition moving forward. So this is going to be the Swan Song one. As you all know, we are now on the countdown. We are, 4.5, 5 weeks away from InfoComm. And this is obviously our Super Bowl of all events every year, and is always a kickoff on this show to bring back the one and only Dave Labuskes to kind of kick off this season for us, talk about what's happening at the show, what we can expect. And then also give you a little bit of information as the higher ed vertical of kind of where you can go, what you can do, how you can connect, and all of that stuff. So with no further ado, hey, I'm gonna cry if you can't retire on us. This is we're gonna talk about great things. All right, that's it. That's the last of my retirement. It's actually not. Dave, please introduce yourself. Tell people who you are and what you do, if assuming people don't know.
Hi, good day, Joe. My name's Dave Labuskes, and I am the CEO of AVIXA, which is the Audiovisual Integrated Experience Association, and we are the owners and producers of that Super Bowl you just talked about, InfoComm, taking place in June in Vegas this year.
Yeah. It's coming, and I'm really excited about it. It's amazing to kind of see how this has really taken off. Especially if I think about the higher ed vertical, right? I mean, not to just mention, HETMA's booth and always doing it big and always going bigger, but now tying in the awards, the education summit, and everything being kind of catered toward higher education. So first question I want to kind of ask you is, and we've talked about this in the past years, is how is the education / end user vertical continuing to impact AVIXA and the greater AV industry as a whole, and how are you seeing that kind of from your point of view? And then also, what does that mean for a show like InfoComm?
Well, I think that the end user, that person that is actually making a living using the AV, is the most important person in the show for our exhibitors, what's been exciting over the years is seeing a shift in them being from that person, those people, being an attendee to being part of the community. And I think, organizations like HETMA are organizations that we've leaned into to work with and to support and to promote. Because, of course, enormous amount of commerce and research and learning is done during an event like this. But there's also the foundational power of community that drives these events. And so you start with, they were, a high value target, the end user, right? It's to the point where lots of them want to be there incognito without the badge showing that they're an end user, because they don't want to be swarmed. Suddenly they're the most attractive person on the planet and everybody wants to spend time with them. It's shifted from that being that alone to being a key component of the show, being a big part of the show. And it continues to be a very fast growing segment of our attendee base. I think last year we were close to 40% of the attendees were end users.
Yeah. And I think that to me, it's huge. And I always appreciative of the industry recognizing how important it is for these partnerships. I mean, it kind of seems like it should be rocket science. Of course, let's talk to the people who are going to be buying the stuff that we're making or whatever, but also to see how, in the last few years, the show has also shifted, right? I mean, the fact is you sell booth space on people who sell stuff, right? So that is that's the audience of the show per se from a business point of view, but to then say, hey, you know what, we want to also cater an entire experience for those who, rely on those products or those manufacturers, those integrated, all of that stuff. And I think that that's really kind of the cool thing that I've seen, and kind of getting these different, different, I'm gonna say themed areas or whatever, kind of having these hubs around. Obviously, HETMA being, I'll consider us one of the hubs in one section, but also just really understanding that the show is only important if we can create those things for people to come. And that's one thing that I've done. So, and I've seen. From your point of view, what are people now to look forward to this year? If you're coming to the show, maybe it's your first InfoComm or you've come many years, what's going to be special about this year?
There's always a laundry list of things to talk about. It's one of the fantastic parts of being able to deliver an event like this is that which is the same and that which is new. It's almost man, back in the early days, somebody used the analogy with me of like a fine restaurant where you have your standards, but you have a consistently shifting menu as well, and you have your specials. Otherwise, it becomes a little bit boring to go back week after week or year after year. We really leaned in this year, starting with this discussion about AV changing the way that we experience the world, and then built down below that and said, okay, well, how do we experience the world? What are the ways that we as human beings actually experience the world? And broke it up into, and you could arguably do it in a lot of different ways, but we focused in on work and play. Part of your life is work, part of your life is play. And we've organized the entire trade show floor around that. Work is in Central Hall, play is in the North Hall. And we've built activations that lean into that give you opportunities to be able to see technology in action. You talked a little bit about, selling floor space to companies that bring stuff to show people. Well, that kind of describes the trade show of 1980 or 1880 or 1180. They go back that far, actually. But it's really not what an event like InfoComm is today. It's a gathering of community and a gathering of individuals and professionals with shared needs, and a exploration of ideas, a sharing of knowledge, and a actually influential impact on the direction of the industry, the direction of the in this case the AV industry. So when you're coming to InfoComm, you're not really coming to just see what the exhibitors are displaying or demonstrating. You're actually building the future of the industry. If you're not there, you don't have the same impact on the direction of the industry. And that this year, is evidenced across the board. So in the play area, you have the pitch, which is a fully activated sports studio. It's built around the World Cup concept of a soccer pitch or football pitch, depending on which part of the world I'm talking in. Leaning into AI and broadcast and the convergence of those. We spent the first 10 years of my career in this role anyway, talking about the convergence of AV and IT, and yet I guess I'm still have to talk about that. But really, where you're seeing now is this exciting influence of AI coming into the industry and impacting it, and broadcast merging into this. What is broadcast today compared to what it was 20 years ago? And an activation like the pitch is a great place for us to do that. And then you go over to the work area and you'll see a retail experience where you have a fully activated and integrated demonstration of how AV can change the way that individuals shop and experience the retail environment. So why are we doing this? Part of it is to be able to reinforce the value of AV and the ubiquitousness of AV, that it is all around us. But part of it also is for that end user you started talking about at the beginning. you can walk into a exhibitor's booth and look at the 12 different screen offerings that they have and be able to, intrinsically identify why you would want this pitch or why you would want this brightness, why you would want this format of dimension. A individual making buying decisions for Costco may very well not be able to do that. And so we want them to actually be able to walk through a retail experience and be able to see how technology can bring that to life. And we're doing that in a number of different places. And then one more, since you asked a broad question, it gives me a chance to really just walk my way all the way around the floor for you.
So you can take it any way.
Is the content part of the show, right? So we've sort of been focusing on the physical aspects of what's actually on the show floor, what's in the boundaries that you'll be able to touch, walk through, et cetera. But also who's speaking, what will you learn, what are we talking about? But I would want to highlight, in that workspace that we've got Ilya Bookstein from Microsoft doing our first keynote on Wednesday, talking about AI-powered collaboration. And then on Thursday, we've got Cisco's Espen Loberg talking about powering the modern workplace. So you've got this, you've got these massive global companies that are driving the industry forward using InfoComm as their platform for messaging, which I think is a reaffirmation for why, if anybody listening to this hasn't registered and made plans to attend, they need to just pause, don't stop, because I'm sure we're going to have more fun later in the podcast, but pause and get yourself a room and get yourself on a plane and get yourself going to Vegas, because you can't possibly learn what you'll learn there anywhere else.
Yeah. I loved what you said. You said early on, that answer was that this is an event. And I love that, as opposed to it's a conference or it's a trade show. It is an event, right? It is a place where we as an industry come together and, like you just said, can help drive the direction of the industry. Does having, a organization like AVIXA that, obviously officially kind of, I would call it our governing body, for lack of better words, right? With CTSs and all of that. Is there an advantage to having that type of oversight, also have the trade show, have the event stuff that goes on, to be able to help guide us and, and take the industry places it couldn't go if those weren't tied together?
Well, what a softball question. Thanks, Joe. Taking it easy on me in my old age, huh? Yeah, well, I think it's the secret sauce. Trade shows are very they're delivered essentially by two sort of verticals. One is a for-profit trade show organizer, and the other is the association world. They, when delivered well, are profitable operations. And for AVIXA, it's not a secret. It is your association. The majority of our operating revenues are driven by trade shows that we organize and deliver around the world. Because they are profitable, other than during global pandemics, they are highly sought after assets. And so we're approached on a regular basis by for-profit organizations looking to acquire these events. And in the sort of the ongoing lyrics of that approach are, we know how to do trade shows for a living. You know how to do community and education for a living. Let us do the trade show. You do the community. You'll still have your name associated with the event. And we'll give you essentially an endowment so you never have to worry about doing all this hard work anymore, and we'll take care of delivering the show for you. The challenge is I've never actually seen that work in any long-term basis. I'm sure it has, and I'm not, and don't want to be disparaging about for-profit trade show organizers. I have friends and colleagues in that industry, and they're great people. The difficulty comes into play that when AVIXA is delivering a show like InfoComm, delivering an event like InfoComm, we are focused in on being a hub for the AV profession and being a catalyst for the growth of the marketplace for the AV industry. We are not focused on enriching shareholders. If you are a publicly or privately held trade show organizer for profit, you are focused on that first. That is your North Star. Now, to deliver on that North Star, you're going to have to deliver quality. You're going to have to deliver good education, good content, or you won't be able to get people to come to your event. And you won't be able to sell space in your event, et cetera. So I'm not suggesting that they're bad events, but there's a, so I don't know how to describe it really perfectly, but if your first mission is the good of the industry and the good of the attendees, you make different decisions than if your first mission is profit. I can't tell you how many millions of dollars that AVIXA has lost, if you were to say it's a for-profit, that we spend on standards, on delivering a CTS, maintaining the ANSI ISO or ANBI ISO accreditation of that standard or that certification. These are things that if you were a for-profit company, you probably wouldn't do. The shift that takes place is, what I've seen is a for-profit company buys show. The show for the first couple of years, it continues along the same momentum that it was on. But then at a certain point, there start to be, things that are carved out. Well, why are we doing that? That makes no sense. That costs way too much money. Let's just not do that. Let's not have that mixer let's not even have that big, lounge on the floor for the association. Because we could sell that space to somebody else. Let's not invest as much in year on year development of content. Let's just, open up the drawer, pull out the people that spoke last year and see who wants to speak this year. And they can just give the same speech they gave last year with a few updated slides. You just start cutting corners. So to me, the show is the mission is the show. I guess I babbled along the long way, but that sums it up. It is the mission.
I absolutely love that, because I think it's true. And I think when those who come to the show feel that, and I love how you wrap it around, the fact that we are moving the industry, and this is probably the one show that moves it the most. And I think it's because of, your secret sauce, right? There are very few of these events. I'm just going to steal that. I'm just calling it an event now. That have the, the education, right? I mean, people think, oh, show floor starts on Wednesday, but the show doesn't start on Wednesday. It starts Saturday, right? I mean, with the three-day education, come in and get all your certifications. We have then we have obviously the HETMA Education Summit. That's the 2 days for higher ed, the Higher Ed Awards on Monday night. So you can basically be there for 5 days before the show floor is actually like the reason most people even go. And you could have already had a full week, not to mention then all those events that end up going along with that. So pulling it now into kind of the higher ed and the education side for us, what are the things that you would look for? What are the tips if someone was an end user and they're coming in? What are those tips that people can take in order to get connected to the community? And obviously, I'm going to speak higher ed specifically, but I think it applies for whatever vertical you work in. What are those certain tips that you want to give somebody?
Be intentional. You can walk into the Las Vegas Convention Center with 30 or 40,000 people and not meet anybody. If that's your intent. If on the other hand you have a goal of broadening your network, then identify what that means to you. Is that identifying your network with individuals that are peers, that are colleagues that are going through what you're going through? Or do you want to find a mentor? Do you want to, or do you want, are you at a stage where you want to be giving back and you want to be a mentor and you want to find people that might actually be interested in hearing what you have to say? Those are three very different tasks, all categorized under the word networking. I think networking is actually a bit of a lazy term because we use it to describe all of that. And achieving any of those outcomes requires a different strategy. So know what you want first. If you want to learn, you're going to say, well, I want to learn. There's lots to learn. Okay, well what do you want to learn? What do you want to learn about, how to optimize gain structure? Well, great. We have a class on that. Do you want to learn about how to scale and utilize USB throughout your enterprise? We have a workshop on that. Do you want to meet if you want to meet other women that are engaged in the industry and are going through some of the same challenges that you're facing in that, then go to the AVIXA Women's Breakfast. And now that doesn't mean that you need to be a woman to go to AVIXA Women's Breakfast, by the way.
It's one of the best things there is going on.
It is actually one of the most popular events that we have. There's a schedule that's published as part of your registration, and so much of it is free. The stages that are on the floor are all free content, in addition to the really valuable paid content you just talked about that takes place before the show and during the show. You also have manufacturers training. So is it that you want to brush up on manufacturer ABC's latest technologies? Then go to their courses. Intrinsic to everything I'm saying is make a plan. Don't just come in and wing it. You just won't get the same experience out of it. And when I say make a plan starting with what do you want to achieve? How will you define success? When you go home on Saturday morning, what is it that you say to your spouse when you get through the door? Man, that's the best event I've ever been to, though. I nailed it. I got everything I wanted. You have to define that first, and then you lay out your plan. There's close to 1,000 exhibitors, maybe a little over 1,000. Let's say 1,000 plus or minus exhibitors. You get 3 days of exhibits, 24 hours of exhibit time. You could do the math. If you wanted to get to every booth, you'd be able to spend about 17 seconds at each booth. It's like going to the Louvre and trying to see everything there, right? Some statistic about it would take 7 years to spend 2 minutes at every exhibit. So you're not going to be able to do that and gain any value. So plan and set appointments. Everybody's busy. And so, this happens to me every year where you and I'll talk, Joe, and it'll be, well, hey, let's get together at the show. And I'll be like, yeah, that's great. And then both you and I have done this enough where we're like, okay, well, what day and what time, right? And we put it on a calendar, because otherwise neither of us are going to see each other. We'll see each other 100 times and wave, but we won't sit down and talk unless we actually plan it. And I would suggest doing the same thing with your nights. The event is not only the morning and afternoon, but it's also the evening, and the events that you go to in the evening that take place all over the city. And for the most part are sponsored by exhibitors, but also other community people that are participating, and get to those mixers and spend time at those. Be smart about participating in those. Make good choices, because bad choices have bad consequences. Hopefully I'm saying that delicately enough. be responsible, demonstrate the type of values and, a behavior that's appropriate for a professional event, and have fun and share stories and make friends and reinforce friendships. But you can't do it. You can't do it on the fly. Well, you can, but you only get 10% of the value you could get.
Yep. Yeah. I love you kind of pointed that out, because to me, InfoComm is one of those, it's just such a unique show because it isn't just the show floor hours, and especially a lot of people in higher education. And if you came up through higher ed, maybe not just necessarily the AV industry, you go to a conference, right? And that is, it shows up and you do a couple of listening sessions, and then you go, and then you might go have dinner, and then you go out on your own afterwards, and you show up the next day. And this is very encompassing, and it can be very overwhelming, and like you said, you got to make smart decisions because you can get really sucked into all of the stuff that goes on. On the flip side, it can be so much and so big that you want to recoil and not get the advantage out of everything that it has to offer, right? And so I think finding that mix, which is where I think, HETMA kind of fits in, when people say to us like, well, wow, why do y'all have a booth? Like, we don't sell anything. Our ROI is our community. It's giving a place for our community to come and say, hey, it's not just networking. Yeah, we do the happy hour every afternoon. We're adding coffee. So we're not just the happy hour people. Every morning we're doing morning coffees and setting that up for people to come in, and connect. And so I think that's really the thing, is to kind of find that network, I think like you said, is, schedule out what you want to do and know what you want to accomplish. And I think that's really the key to get the most value out of it, and reach out, and I'd say to an organization, if you're in higher ed, obviously reach out to HETMA, because, we have so much programming over the course of the week. But I think that's every vertical, right? If for your job, I'm there to, I got a big projector project going on this year, or I've got this project going on. Reach out ahead of time, find the people, because it can, especially you show up to the booth and it's packed in there, that you don't necessarily just walking and staring at something isn't that added level, right? And so to make those connections, I think, is important, but you have to be intentional about it. To me, I don't know. I mean,
I know, I totally agree. And I guess I give one more sort of like wise old man advice. Also being intentional about leaving room for serendipity. So, back in the days of going to the office every day, I used to, hold an hour of my day to just walk around and chat with people. And man, I learned so much during those walkarounds. Not only did I learn, about, you getting engaged, or so-and-so kid just won an award, or, these types of things. But also, you start talking to somebody and you can hear that, in their voice, that there's stress there that you didn't realize was there. And you can start to find out what's going on in the organization that you wouldn't necessarily find out any other way. The same thing will happen to you on the trade show floor and or at other events. Give yourself some time to not be scheduled. In other words, schedule unscheduled time, and use that to walk through some of the smaller booths that weren't on your list. And I continually, and I guess Dan Feldstein and Brad are all happy that I continue to use this example. But Crestron came into this show with a 10 by 10 in the back of the hall years and years and years ago. And if you don't ever walk through those booths, you're never going to discover those companies when they're at that size. And sometimes that's the best discovery to make. So leave a little bit of unstructured time. And I guess to your other point, like the recoil concept, also be self-aware. Don't burn yourself out. Do certain things, like you're probably going to sleep deprive yourself during the week, because that's kind of what everybody does, but try not to. Try to actually give yourself a good night's sleep. Do drink a ton of water. It's amazing how quickly you can become dehydrated in these convention centers. I spend half of my work life in them, and for some reason they're all as arid as any desert. And so just be constantly drinking water, and pace yourself. Don't burn yourself out.
Yeah, especially in Vegas, because
yeah, stay healthy.
That can definitely take a toll. Vegas
Yep.
is one of the cities that, just the way the air pushes through. So oh my gosh, I love this. So another question that you made me kind of think of here. So if, kind of speak to the higher ed vertical, if you're, and I kind of want to reflect. I mean, obviously people probably saw the news. You're going to be retiring here coming up end of year. Is it actually like December 31 and you're out the door? Is
Effective December 31. Yeah, they may kick me out sooner once they find a new person, but yeah, December 31.
All right. So, so one, I'm gonna ask the two-part question. I mean, we have to, reflect. I mean, reflect a little bit on, kind of your tenure and where you've seen it, but also more specifically, even just HETMA kind of now being in. This is our fourth, fifth year of having a booth, going from the big one. Now we, a double decker the last few years, obviously even bigger and more programming. Kind of reflect on that and that change that you've seen over these years.
I remember the first time I saw HETMA in the trade news, and I was like, you had mentioned we're the governing body. I don't. We are clearly a dysfunctional governing body. If the definition of governing is that what we say goes, we are not certainly the authority by which others define how they're going to behave and operate. I do think we have an authoritative voice for the industry, and I do think we have enormous abilities to convene, and to inform and to lead, or to offer leadership. What we don't have is any ability to coerce or enforce the following of that. So it's an influence by leader, or it's a leadership by influence type role. When I see an organization like HETMA be formed, my first reaction, and maybe it's part of my psychological problems, but my first reaction is, well, why do they want to compete with us? Why is HETMA? Why are they doing that? Like, we already have higher ed people coming to AVIXA functions, and that's my knee-jerk reaction, or at least it was years ago, and it was really strong when I first started. But part of that is because I came out of the for-profit, publicly traded world where shareholder value was number one, and so anything that HETMA is doing means they're taking it away from AVIXA in that world if you're competing with each other. What I realize now, and it's to the point where that instinct is almost gone from the competitive aspect, is that people want community. People want a tribe. They want a fire. They want a campfire to sit around, is a visual I've used at times, and they've wanted that since we lived in caves. This surrounding yourself with people that help you live, and help you survive, whether it's literal survival or career survival. And HETMA did that for a group of people that needed a tribe within the tribe. And so if you think back to those early days, and hopefully still, I mean, AVIXA could have said, no, we're not going to work with HETMA. We're not going to support HETMA. We're not going to give any platform to HETMA. We're not going to X, Y, Z. But instead we leaned into it and said, let's actually, the stronger you are, the stronger AVIXA is, the stronger the industry is. Again, back to that. If your North Star is to be the catalyst for market growth and the hub for the profession, then part of it is to bring fuel to everybody's campfire. And have a community one as well. I'm going to beat this metaphor until it's dead, but it doesn't. And so what's been fun is watching HETMA move from an idea and very personal, sort of everything on your shoulders, to being an organization that is sustainable, has structure, has continuity, and sustainability. It's the same path. I mean, I watched Owen with AV Users Group. We've had Save is another organization like this. There's so many sort of sub community groups that I think it's fabulous that we as AVIXA support all of them and promote them to further reinforce this connectiveness of this industry. So it's been great to watch it mature and to watch it move from a bunch of people that all like each other, know each other, and had been hanging out in the bar in the evening anyway, into an organization that offers scholarship, an organization that provides education, an organization that promotes the professionalism of AV within a vertical that doesn't necessarily intrinsically recognize the distinction of expertise that is required to deliver AV. It's been fabulous, and it's enriching to me, or fulfilling to me, to see that we made the right choice in nurturing and feeding and supporting.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. That was great. I didn't expect that as the answer. That is fantastic. And I appreciate the just the transparency on that, because I look at what happened. I mean, I still will say this to this day. One of my single favorite moments there was announcing the Prism Scholarship on stage with you there, you and Joey, and it really took, like, I would say that I wouldn't be who I am without AVIXA, and without your support, and without really taking this community and saying, hey, yeah, we were a ragtag group of people who just felt like we have an amazing thing in InfoComm and in AVIXA. Can we find a way to support one another? Can we, like you said, the community within the community, right? And be able to, let's pull this together, and then let's do programming together. Let's get a platform together. Let's be able to give all of those things that hopefully we've brought as equal value to AVIXA as well. I mean, hopefully it's been a two-way street where we've been able to help, with you all in the same time. And so I love that perspective of it. So, I mean, as we kind of start to close up here, I just want to ask a couple of quick questions. So one of the things we have in common, we both made SCN's Hall of Fame this year, same class. I'd have no idea how I got in that one. But you know what? I get to be on a magazine cover with you. So the question to you then, as you look back in, through your career, what are the top couple of just moments that are always just going to stick out to you as you look back, and those were defining moments for you?
When I took the call for this job, I mean, this was a 10-month interview process, and the final interview was, I think, 9 search committee members, and it was a mock board meeting, and I was presenting my strategies for the growth of AVIXA, well, InfoComm it was called at the time. And then I was done. The day was over, right? So I had this 2-hour interview that I had spent 40 hours or 100 hours preparing for. So I called my wife and I'm coming home early. I'll pick up Landon from school on the way home, because normally she would pick him up, and we were driving home, and I get the call, and it broke up. I was in a dead cell area, and I hear it's Greg Jeffries calling me, and he's like, Dave, this is Greg Jeffries, and I'm like, And then and he's like, and I'm like, Greg, like I've been waiting for this call for a year, right? Like, so I'm like, give me a second. I'm going to be at the top of a hill. I'll pull off the road. And so I pull off, and he tells me that they would like that I'm their number one choice. They'd like to work with me to, see if we can negotiate a contract and bring me on board as the new CEO. And my, I guess what he's probably 10 at the time. 10-ish years old son sitting in the car with me. And so I hang up, and he looks at me and he gives me this high five, and I give him the high five. And then I'm like, do you think we should tell your mom? And so we call mom and we tell her, and it was so I mean, just even that sort of anecdotal start of my career here is wrapped around the emotion, the real value of this position. So that's one I remember. I remember the first ribbon cutting at InfoComm, and it's the part. People that know me probably aren't surprised too much to hear this, but it's not the standing and getting the 53,000 cameras going off with the cutting of the ribbon. For me, as soon as that happens, I step over. If you ever watch me, well, you only get one more time to see it, but everybody starts talking, and this is great. So excited to see you. And I actually sort of, to your like recoil kind of thing or pace yourself, I pull off and out of all of that. And I just go stand at the door and sort of tuck myself in at the edge of the entryway. And I just watch the people for 10 minutes, probably 5 or 10 minutes. But by that point, like you described, I've already been at the show for a week and I'm already exhausted. So there's a certain level of that, but it's also this, like, there's so much work that my team and volunteers all around the world put into that event, and the visual, that sort of the experiential part of it all comes to reality in the stream of humanity that goes through that entrance right after the ribbon cutting. And so I didn't have any sense of that the first time I cut it, but I look forward to it now every year. It's one of the moments that completely recharges me. I remember dancing at to Bollywood songs at an Indian AV Awards event, probably the most fun awards event. I go to a lot of awards events with my job. That had to be one of the most fun. Sorry for anybody that's ever had one that now is offended because I didn't list theirs. The individual moments, the women's breakfast. It was actually a women's tea in Mumbai, and India isn't in the same sort of evolutionary process as Western cultures are with regards to the role of women in the workplace, and the strength and the power of the women in that room, and thinking to myself that we did that, we held that event, we made that possible. I could go on.
I love that. I love that.
One more. The October InfoComm in Orlando at the end of, or in the midst of, the pandemic. And there was a lot of ugliness that took place online in advance of that event. And it was a horrifyingly difficult decision to make on whether to hold that event or not hold that event. And one of those decisions that you just don't know if it's the right decision until it's done, right? And as I stood there with my mask on and watched the people coming in again at the side of the entryway, and saw this just hunger to be together and the ability to see, as obviously much smaller and, across every measure, but except for the quality of the conversations and the community and the value of it. So this terrifying feeling that nobody's going to show up and that it was the worst thing we could ever do, and having it in fact not be that. In fact, actually, I agree. Um, Certainly one of the most powerful infocoms that I've ever been a part of.
100%. It hands down the best one. My staff says it. Everyone still says how that was. And you did the right thing at the time. And it had to be an incredibly difficult decision. I know we've talked about that even there. Like no one knew, but it was needed. It was a public service to our industry to have that. It was saying, okay, we are going to be back and we're going to get through this. And someone had to step up and do it. And it was you all.
Yeah, after everybody left that week, my wife actually came. I that year, and she confessed afterwards because she knew, as I did, that who knew whether I'd made the worst decision or best decision of my life, and she wanted to be there if it turned out that it was the worst. She was going to be my support, and she and I went to there's an Italian restaurant in the Hilton, the Hyatt. It's across the street from the convention center, and we're having dinner, and the entire kitchen and wait staff came out to the table, and the chef was like, Mr. Labuskes, just we all wanted to say thank you. None of us have worked for the last 9 months, and the fact that you held this event brought us all back to work, and we needed to be back to work for our families, and it's still a very emotional memory.
Wow, that is amazing. That is great. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. I was gonna you almost maybe just ask the one last question. I know we're coming on time, or actually, I think we're technically over time. But I did want to ask you the the question. What do you after you look at your tenure, what do you hope that people, as you're leaving the organization into the next hands that take it over, what do you hope that legacy? I don't necessarily legacy, but how do you hope that the organization moves on after you? Where have you kind of left it and spread forward? I mean, you just announced another show acquisition with Liza. Like you've done so much growth, but where do you really think that what you've done or hope that you've done that makes it successful after you? Because that's the form of a legacy, right? That it can move on after you're out.
Well, I think we have an amazingly talented team at AVIXA. So many of even just that little sort of intro question that you just posed suggests that the strength and growth are because of me, and it's the team. Actually, I get credit for all of this, and I have so little that I actually have done on any of them. I'm leaving the organization, and we talked about HETMA being a sustainable organization. At this point, it's no longer wholly dependent on Joe Way and what you do or don't do with respect to the organization. AVIXA is so much more than me. It has, I think we have clarity of purpose, and we have an integrated culture that's focused on courage and heart and trust. And I hope that continues. And I think with talent and with those values and the resources that the organization now has, the road is infinite, and the industry itself continues to evolve. The governance of the organization with the board, if you look at the quality of the individuals that are serving on the AVIXA board of directors, and as we go through this year, looking towards next year's board of directors, I mean, we have the CEOs of billion-dollar companies that are helping define the strategy of this organization, and that's, I think, in some ways, that's the measure of the quality of an association is who's serving on the board, and why are they serving on the board. Uh, it's really not about. It's just the last thing I want it to be about is any kind of Dave legacy. Were you Boy Scouts? I have to believe that you were involved
I
in Boy
was
Scouts.
as a child, yeah.
Do you remember? I would presume you got beat into your head just as I did, that leave it better than you found it.
Yeah.
You go to a campsite, leave more split wood for the next people that come than was there when you got there. Clean it up a little bit more. Do something that leaves it better than you found it. Hopefully that's what they say. I left it better than I found it. And it was pretty good when I found it.
Yeah, I love that. That is, but that answer shows your true leadership and why the organization has done what it has over the last few years, and however been, that I've seen, especially recently. So, and just your embracing of HETMA. And so I will say, as a kind of closing words here, a huge thank you to you. Our organization is successful because of what you and your team and all of those involved. But again, of course, that shows your leadership and allowing your team to be able to do those things and empowering them to do that. So I will say thank you on that as well. I guess I should tell people that you can use code HETMA at InfoCommShow.org in order to get a free show pass. Also, the Education Summit, use code HETMA and you get members pricing if you're not an AVIXA member. HiredAVAwards.com to be able to go and attend the awards banquet. So there's so much. So that's my commercial for all of that. Last thing for you is, can you tell people how they can get a hold of you and learn more about AVIXA or InfoComm should they choose to?
Go to avixa.org to start your journey, and in fact, sneak preview that whole platform will be refreshed as of the middle of next month. For depending on when you're listening to this, the middle of May. And you can reach me at dlabuskes@avixa.org is my email. You can find me hanging out at the edge of the door at InfoComm on Wednesday morning.
And we'll see you. You got to come by the HETMA booth. I mean,
of course I will.
Because that's where you're going to, because really that's all you want to be at the whole time. We know that. You can pretend to want to be elsewhere, but we know you really just want to hang out at our booth.
Yep, you're right. You found me out, man. You found me out.
Yeah, we know it. We can keep it a secret. But thank you, Dave. This has just been awesome. I want to say my thanks to you and to everyone, of course. Hopefully this was this was a little bit of a different InfoComm preview, but this shows you, again, the power of this event has for our entire industry. It's the one you need to be at as you're planning and you're thinking of what to do. There's still time. We've got another month, everybody. Go on, get your hotel booked, get your flights booked. Make sure you use code HETMA as you register. And as always, none of the opinions expressed here are necessarily those of our respected institutions, companies, anything like that. Really, if you want to sue us, if there's anything we said that would make you want to sue us, it has nothing to do with you. That's it. That's kind of the rules here. And to that, if you didn't like these opinions, well, there might be better ones next time. We'll see you all. Hopefully you enjoyed listening.